Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about outdoor chores. Around the house, you do chores. You do things like the dishes and you vacuum. But we also have outdoor chores. We have things that you do outside of your house, maybe outside of your apartment, but this lesson will mostly be about things you do outside of your house in the yard. And also, this English lesson will very much be North American because I only know the kinds of outdoor chores that I do. So you may live in a country where you don't do some of these things. But you might live in a country where you do many of these. And even if you live in an apartment and don't live in a house, I think it's important to learn these English words and phrases. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about outdoor chores. Rake the leaves. So as I mentioned, this is very much a North American lesson, and I do realize there are other countries where you need to rake the leaves. This is the first slide because this is how I thought of this lesson. The leaves are just starting to fall here in Canada, and eventually people in the city will start to rake the leaves. They'll rake their leaves in their yard. If you don't rake the leaves, they pile up and they kind of kill the lawn underneath the next spring. So you do have to remove the leaves. Because we have a lot of maple trees in particular here in Canada, there are a lot of leaves on the ground in the fall or in the autumn. You can use both words, by the way. I don't rake the leaves because ours just kind of blow away because we live on a farm. But we do sometimes rake a few if they don't blow away. But definitely you need to rake the leaves. A very common activity, I think, in the northern hemisphere in some countries, if you're far enough north. But I'm not sure about other parts of the world. But this will definitely be happening. And bonus question, what kind of rake is this person using? If you watch the lesson on garden tools, you'll have to guess. Mow the lawn. So for some reason, we mow the lawn. We mow a lot of lawn on our farm. People who live in the city sometimes are very proud of their lawns. They do everything they can to grow a beautiful lawn. And one of the things you need to do when you have a beautiful lawn is you need to mow it. You want to keep it a certain length so that it looks nice. You want it to be enjoyable to play games on the lawn. Like you can play a little bit of soccer, but if you let the grass grow really tall, it doesn't work as well. And there's other things you can do as well. You can sit outside on the lawn, but if you don't mow the lawn, it starts to not be as enjoyable. So I do appreciate a well-mowed lawn. And you would use a lawnmower to mow the lawn. I'll give you the answer for this one. This person is using a push mower to mow their lawn. This is something I don't enjoy doing, but it's something we do a lot, and it's when you weed. When you grow any kind of plant, maybe you have a flower bed, maybe you have a vegetable garden, you'll have celery and carrots and beans, all of the things you want. We have zinnias and lisianthus and different types of flowers that we want, but there's also something called weeds. Other plants that just grow where you don't want them and you have to pull them out. And we call this weeding, or you can just say weed. I need to weed the garden, or I need to do some weeding. Again, I do not enjoy weeding. Oh, that's not entirely true. I don't mind weeding when the weeds are little. I do not enjoy weeding when they're really, really big. It's definitely hard to weed when the weeds get really big. And you might need to water. This person has, well, I'll let you guess what this is. They'll have this, I'll just say it. They'll have a watering can. You could also just use a hose. You could use a sprinkler, but you might need to water the garden or water the flowers. We sometimes say water the flower bed, but usually we water the lawn, water the garden, or water the flowers. Those would be the three things you are most likely to water if you have plants outside. Because plants need water to grow. By the way, they need good fertile soil, they need sunlight, they need air, and they need water, and then plants will grow beautifully. We usually use a sprinkler when we water, or we use something called drip line because we water a lot of flowers. So this is common in northern countries. I'm not sure if you go far enough south, you probably do this as well. But this is something very common here in Canada. You need to shovel snow. We sometimes say shovel the driveway or shovel the walkway. We'll be specific about what you're shoveling, and it's understood that you're talking about snow. I see Brent's here. If Brent said he had to go outside and shovel the driveway, my understanding is that he is shoveling snow. He's going outside to shovel snow. Some people have snow blowers, so that's a machine. I have a snow blower that goes on my tractor. That makes it really easy to get rid of snow. But most people in the city would go outside with a shovel and they would shovel snow in order to make it safe and easy to walk in the winter. And then this is one that's a bit controversial because salt isn't the nicest thing to put on the ground. But in Canada, we sometimes put salt in areas where there might be ice. So on our little sidewalk or front entrance way, we shovel the snow, and then we usually put a little bit of salt down if we have guests coming over. Salt will melt the ice. So when you remove snow from a hard surface, sometimes the ice will still form and it's very slippery. And if you put down some salt, you will be able to melt the ice, and then it's much safer. So you might, if it's winter, need to salt the walkway or salt the sidewalk, or some people even salt the whole driveway, although that's a lot of salt going into the environment. I don't recommend that. We do salt our roads too, though, in the winter here. Fall cleanup. So this is the second thing that made me think of this lesson. In the fall, because winter is coming here, we do fall cleanup. So before the snow flies, before the first snowfall, we like to clean up the yard as best as possible. We put all the bikes into the barn. If you lived in the city, you would put all your bikes in your garage, because our bikes sometimes are just laying around outside. We clean our eaves troughs. In Canada, we call these eaves troughs. In the US, I think they call them gutters. I don't know. Maybe Brent can let us know. But we definitely clean up if any sticks have fallen off of trees, if there's anything, maybe some stuff has blown into the lawn. But we definitely go outside and clean up the yard as best as we can before it snows. And then there's three things that I don't know a lot about, but I know they're outdoor chores. And that's skim the pool, vacuum the pool, and close the pool. So if you have a pool, I don't have a pool, but if you have a pool, leaves and other things fall in the pool and you need to skim the pool. So this is a skimmer, a pool skimmer. It's like a screen on the end of a stick, and you can use it to scoop out things that are floating in your pool. You need to vacuum the pool as well. By the way, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a pool. We go there to swim. It's much easier to go and swim at someone else's house instead of having your own pool. When you vacuum the pool, you remove stuff that has sunk into the bottom. So there might be some dirt or other things that have, they sunk to the bottom of the pool, and you use the vacuum to suck them out. So the vacuum pulls the stuff off the bottom. And if you live in a climate like I do, if you live in a northern climate, people are currently closing their pools. You need to close the pool in the fall because it becomes too cold to swim, and you can't leave the pool the way it is for the winter. Most people will drain their pool down a bit, and then they will put a tarp on top or a cover on top. And sometimes we say you need to winterize your pool. That's another name for it. But you need to close the pool because obviously you can't swim when it's cold. You can't swim when it's frozen solid. And you don't want water in the plumbing and fittings of the pool. So people drain it lower down so that it is good for winter. Wash the car. I don't do this. I am not someone I wait for it to rain. And then my vans get washed. But some people love to wash their car or wash the car. And I understand this. If I had really nice vehicles, I think that I would probably wash them every once in a while. When you go outside to wash the car, most people I know will do this in their driveway. They will hook up a garden hose. They will get a pail with some water and soap and maybe a sponge, and then they will wash their car. Usually they'll make the car wet first. They'll have a nozzle on the end of the garden hose and they'll make the car wet. And then they'll use the sponge and soapy water to scrub the car a bit, but not too hard. You don't want to damage the paint job. And then you will rinse the car off with the garden hose as well. Some people will go to a car wash, but I do know I still have friends who will wash their car every Saturday. When I was a kid, we washed the car every Saturday. My dad liked having the car all nice and clean, so we would wash the car. Clean the windows. We do this once a year. We usually do it before winter because when you know you're going to be in the house for a few months, it's nice to have really clean windows. So this is both an indoor chore and an outdoor chore because you have to clean both sides of the window. But we will use something called Windex. It's a special window cleaner. And we will go outside and we will clean the windows. And then we will come inside and clean the windows. And again, we usually do this around this time of year because we know the weather is going to get cold and we are going to be stuck inside. Plant. It's a pretty general verb, plant. You might plant flowers, you might plant a vegetable garden, you might plant a tree. When you are outside, when you have a yard, it's nice to have things growing. So you might go outside in the spring and you might plant some bedding plants. Bedding plants are flowers that come in a little tray and you put them into your flower bed. So instead of starting from seed, you can buy little plants. We call them bedding plants. You might plant a vegetable garden. You might put seeds in the ground in order to grow some vegetables. Or you might want some more shade. So you buy a tree in a pot and you plant the tree. Everyone should plant at least one tree in their life, I think. I've planted a couple hundred probably. I think we planted 100 trees just last fall. Yeah, we plant a lot of trees. We like trees. Oh, and then you might be able to harvest or pick things. So if you have a vegetable garden, you might go outside and harvest some of the vegetables that you grew. You might go and pick some. So you might go and pick some tomatoes. I was trying to think though, if I was to go out to harvest is the general term for gathering a crop. If I was to go get onions or garlic or potatoes or carrots, I would probably go dig up some onions or dig up some potatoes because they're in the ground. Harvest, I would probably use pick more often. I'm going to go pick some strawberries. I'm going to pick some apples. I'm going to pick some raspberries. Yeah, definitely. And then flowers, you can go pick flowers, but you can also go cut flowers because you use pruners to get them. So even if you're in an apartment, you might do this chore. You might go outside to sweep the balcony or sweep the patio or sweep the deck. We behind our house have a patio. So a patio is usually at ground level and it's usually made with bricks or flat paving stones. And so we usually sweep the patio every once in a while. You might sweep the deck. A deck is usually a raised area outside made out of wood. We don't have a deck, so I can't show you a deck in any of my videos. Maybe I should do a video someday because my sister has a deck. I could show you a deck. And then a balcony obviously is a small area outside of your apartment or outside of the top floor of a house. So you're above the ground. And sometimes you need to sweep. You need to keep it clean. So you go outside and you sweep. You could also say sweep up, by the way. I need to sweep up some stuff on the balcony. Hang up the clothes. So we also say hang up the laundry. After you do the laundry, it needs to dry. You can put it in a dryer, but we don't have a dryer. We usually hang up our clothes. We have lots of space outside and sunlight and wind is free. It doesn't cost anything. So we will hang up the clothes or hang up the laundry outside, and we will let it dry. We use clothespins to hold things on the line. We actually do this more. We actually have drying racks as well, and we will hang up the clothes on drying racks and then put those outside, especially when we know the weather might change. That way we can bring the drying rack of clothes inside. So that's actually our most common way of drying clothes. But you might have a clothesline. This person is even in the city with a clothesline, and they might decide it's a good day to do laundry and hang up clothes outside to dry. It's a great way to dry clothes for sure. Walk the dog. Most people don't walk their cat. I don't think that's very common, but if you have a dog, it's a really good idea to walk the dog, to take the dog for a walk. That would be another way to say it. The dogs have a lot of energy. If your dog is in your house all day or in your apartment all day, especially when you go to work, it's always nice in the morning to walk the dog and to walk the dog again when you get home, or at least let the dog out so the dog can play in the yard if you have a yard. But definitely it's always nice to walk the dog. When you walk your dog is just happier. Dogs love it when you take them for a walk. Oh, and by the way, when you walk the dog will have a collar, and then the thing you hook up to it and hold is called a leash. So this person, the dog has a collar around their neck, and the person, you can see from the person to the dog, that is the leash that the lady is using to walk her dog. You might need to paint something. I don't do this a lot, but I actually need to do this soon because my mailbox is starting to rust a little bit. So I need to paint my mailbox. You might need to paint the fence. You might need to paint a birdhouse. You might need to paint, I'm trying to think of other things you might paint, but sometimes a fresh coat of paint makes something just look better. And that's a phrase we often use in English. I need to give the mailbox a fresh coat of paint. It's starting to rust a little bit on the corners. So I should do that before the snow flies at some point. It was one of the jobs I was supposed to do this summer, but I have to build a hammock frame before I can paint the mailbox. We'll see how that goes. So to paint something, to trim the hedge or to trim the hedges or to trim a hedge. If you have a hedge trimmer, that's what this machine is. You might have a hedge that needs trimming. A hedge is a row of similar bushes that grow usually along the side or edge of a yard, or maybe even around the edges of a yard. Sometimes people will build a fence, but sometimes people will just grow a hedge. And hedges need to be trimmed every once in a while, or they just get too big. So you might need to go outside and trim the hedge so it looks nice and tidy. You might need to prune some things. So this person has pruners in their hand. Maybe you have some rose bushes that need pruning. Maybe you have apple trees which need to be pruned once a year, I think. Maybe you grow grapes and you need to prune some of the grapevines. But either way, sometimes you need to go outside and you need to prune some things so that they don't get overgrown. Trim the lawn. So this is called... So if you watch the video I did on garden tools, I call this a weed eater. Some people call it a whippersnipper. Some people call it a trimmer. Some people call it a weed whacker. And I think there's even another name for it. But this is a tool used to kind of mow the lawn. You're not really mowing it, you're trimming it, but it's where the lawnmower can't go. So the lawnmower can't go close to the edge sometimes, or maybe you want to trim it to be shorter along the edges. And so you will trim the lawn using a trimmer, weed eater, weed whacker, weed eater. There's too many names for it. I don't do this. I'm starting a lot of these by saying I don't do this. I don't fertilize my lawn, but people in the city will often fertilize their lawn because they want their lawn to look amazing. And so perhaps in the spring or fall, they will fertilize their lawn. They will get a spreader, they will fill it with fertilizer, and they will go out and they will fertilize the lawn. Fertilizer has nitrogen and potassium and phosphate in it, and it helps things to grow well. I think lawns probably especially like nitrogen, but I'm not 100% sure, but that would be my guess. When I grow wheat, it likes a lot of nitrogen, so I'm assuming lawns like the same. But if you love your lawn and you want it to look beautiful, you will most likely fertilize it every once in a while. To repair something. So this person has decided to repair their fence. We also use the word fix. There's a couple of things I need to fix outside before winter comes. The stairs outside on our barn needs a few screws in it. I need to fix that. I need to fix a birdhouse down the hill. But things outside sometimes start to fall apart, or sometimes they break, and then you need to fix them. So this person has decided to repair the fence. We could equally say this person has decided to fix the fence. Fill the bird feeder. So we do have a bird feeder. We do fill it sometimes, but it's kind of sporadic. When something is sporadic, it means you don't do it every day. But this person has decided it's time to fill the bird feeder. Birds like to come, especially in the winter, and get some food from a bird feeder. It's considered nice in Canada to have a bird feeder because I think it's hard for some birds to find food in the winter, wild birds. So you might have a bird feeder hanging from a tree or outside on a post, and then you need to go and fill it every once in a while. And then lastly, the way I say it and the way Americans say it, I say take out the garbage. Jen and I take out the garbage once a week. Brent from Speak English with This Guy would probably say take out the trash, which means to take out whatever you've thrown in your garbage. Now, I must say in Canada, we have very little garbage each week. We have a lot more recycling and a lot more compost. So in Canada, we put out our compost, which is anything from the kitchen that can decay. So like eggshells, leftover food, when you peel potatoes, the potato peels, the parts of vegetables and fruits you don't eat, they go in the compost, and we actually send those to the road and they take them to a composting facility. We also recycle our paper. We recycle our plastic. And so our garbage over the years, like if I think about the last 25 years, the amount of garbage we generate each week has gone down. There's very little actual garbage going to the road. It's mostly recycling, plastic, paper, and other things.